Hey guys, it's Jeff Shoemaker, broker owner of Remax Agility here in Aldie, Virginia. Today we're doing our second video on the home buying process. Today's video is all about how to hire the right agent. So I thought that I would change up the title today of the video and make it why you hire an agent. And I think if you understood really why you hire an agent and the purpose behind it and what they bring to the table, it would also help you find the right agent or know what to look for in an agent when you're out interviewing for the positions. Let's talk about real quick. The first reason you should hire an agent is expertise and knowledge. So agents bring a lot to the table in knowledge and expertise about the process of buying. The buying process has many moving parts, and if you don't have someone to help you navigate all the parts and processes of buying a house, it's going to make things way more difficult for you. So having someone that already knows how to do it is a big help. It's kind of like going on the ocean for the first time in a sailboat. You've never sailed before. You've just looked at pictures of sailing or watch videos of sailing on YouTube, and you think you're going to go out and jump on a sailboat and do it and cross the ocean to other continents, and you're probably going to get lost and drown in the ocean. So the first step is understanding you're hiring an agent because of their knowledge and their expertise. The expertise is in process, but it also is in area. So if you're looking at properties and you're in different areas, those areas are very different in pricing, how people make offers, what offers people accept, what demand is. And so if you're in an area, say between Reston Town Center or versus Southeast DC, there's a massive difference in how properties get sold, the timeline of properties, how quick they sell. Those are things that are important because you need to know going into it if you're in an area that's in really high demand or not. That's going to help you craft an offer that'll be or at least have a greater chance of getting accepted. So it's really important. The next thing is common issues or problems with certain types of housing. So if you are a novice buyer and you don't understand home ownership and homeowners associations versus condominiums, it's great to have somebody that understands how that's different than a typical property that says a property that's not in a subdivision that has an HOA. Some of the other common issues you might find are properties that have common defective products that are known that have either been in class action lawsuits or in lawsuits that are ongoing. So those things can be roofing materials, and so there's a lot of different products out there that is already kind of known that's defective, but the public doesn't really know about it because there's so much in the news as far as politics and noise that it's not something most people ever see. These sometimes aren't things that home inspectors can find. We'll kind of real quick what those are. So if you're say looking at houses that were built between 2005 and 2010, some of them may have some of the Certainty or Atlas roofing shingle that was part of some class action lawsuits where there was some defective products. If you're buying a home and the shingle looks great and there's no issues with it that you can see from the ground, and you don't have a roofer go look at it and you rely on a home inspector to look at it from the ground with a pair of binoculars, they might say it's okay, it's fine, and then you get 5 or 6 months into owning it and find out it leaks and find out shingles are getting blown off in high wind. And those are things you should know about ahead of time, because if you're buying a home with FHA or VA funding, there are certain things they require with property conditions. So having an agent that understands what those property condition requirements are is a big help as well. Some of the other common issues you'll see will be polybutylene plumbing, Chinese drywall. There are certain under-sink water filters that are an issue, as well as there's 8 or 9 different roofing products that are out there that are currently either in class action lawsuits or have been approved for them or have been settled. So those are all things you want to research and know about before you start looking at houses. It's better to find those things or see them when you're looking at houses or have questions so you can get them answered ahead of time, because if you make an offer on a property and you're going to spend money on a home appraisal, on an application for mortgage, and for the home inspection, if it's a rural property and you're spending money on septic and well inspections, you might spend $1,200 to $1,500 for all these things and find out you can't buy it. So it's really important. Make sure your agent understands all these things, and they ask a lot of questions, do a lot of research. Make sure when you're out there looking that you can catch everything you can catch. They can't catch everything. Agents aren't home inspectors or contractors normally, so they're not going to be required to point those things out. But if you find someone who really knows the business, they're going to know about all those things in advance. In my history of selling houses, I've primarily worked for corporate-owned sellers. So these are REO properties, foreclosures, asset companies. In that capacity, I was a property manager. I dealt with evictions, repairs. I've managed the repair of 300 or 400 properties. And going through that process and learning all those things and seeing what things cause transactions to die helps you get prepared on every transaction you do to kind of fight those things and hopefully avoid the houses that you're going to end up not closing on. The next thing is going to be representation. So an agent owes you 6 fiduciary duties in Virginia. Those duties are obedience, loyalty, disclosure, confidentiality, accounting, and reasonable due care and due diligence, and those things are by state law. You have those fiduciary duties with your client or with your client as an agent, and after you close, you still owe them accounting and confidentiality. So the reason that's important is that they represent your interests. They have to make sure that they protect you the same way they would themselves. And by having those fiduciary duties be a state requirement or be a law, it's going to make sure hopefully those things are upheld. So you're hiring an agent for that representation, as well as being a spam blocker or buffer, if you will. So if you have, if you've already been looking at houses, going to open houses, calling agents, going on websites, going on Zillow, you're probably already getting hammered by agents calling you, trying to get you to hire them to sell you, or so they can sell you a house. Having an agent, having an agency agreement with them in writing, means that now you can tell those agents you have an agent. So it's going to be a great way to keep people from harassing you and calling you, for lack of a better term. So by having them be a spam blocker or a buffer for you, that's going to help you with living your life and not having to spend so much time answering your phone or avoiding calls. And nowadays also avoiding text messages. The next thing is you hire an agent to be a negotiator. So having a professional negotiator is fantastic, because someone who is already skilled and experienced in negotiating, writing offers, how to get parties to agree and move forward, having someone in that capacity to work for you is far more advantageous to you than just doing it yourself. Because if you're trying to negotiate with another party yourself, it's sometimes difficult because emotion gets in the way. A lot of times where you may fold under pressure, your agent won't. So I can tell you that having a skilled negotiator is going to save you a lot of time, money, and aggravation. So the next thing is regulations, state and federal. So in every state, there are regulations that are specific to the state. Sometimes we have issues with county on certain regulations and things. You also have things with federal, so like lead-based paint, fair housing laws for state and federal. Understanding all of these regulations, knowing what forms and documents to use, what are appropriate, what are not, it's going to help you get through the process smoothly, or at least a lot smoother than it would be if you're out on your own trying to figure it out. It's kind of what I would also say to be similar to if you're going to build an addition on your house. You've never built one before, you've never filed for permits before, you've never looked at blueprints before. Hiring a general contractor or a contractor to go through those things with you and submit those documents and paperwork are going to make things way easier, because you're not going to spend all your time searching the internet trying to find out what you need to use. So when you hire an agent, one of the other big benefits of hiring an agent is having someone that already has an established network. So having someone that has contractors and painters and plumbers and electricians, all those things, a huge help, as well as having people they know that are in lending and in title. People that have networking and associations, and also networking with builders, because a lot of times if I'm going to take someone to a new builder and there's something specific they want that the builder doesn't necessarily offer, if I've worked with them before and they know me well, I can typically persuade them to do things that normally they just wouldn't do. And so having that network and having those connections is really going to be a big help to you if you're trying to find a property, especially that's new construction, where there may be a lot of lot premiums and there's only so many lots they're releasing at one time. Having that network means you can get in there hopefully before it's released, know ahead of time, and that way you can maybe not have to compete with all the other people trying to buy them. Hiring an agent, very simply, is having the ability to have someone who's going to work for you full time, selling you your house, so that way you're not out doing all this work yourself as you're trying to work your day job that you need to work in order to get qualified for the mortgage to purchase. It also means that while you're working, this person's out working as well. So you're hiring an agent to do all of these things, and it's really worth every penny. Know that a seller, when you buy a property, especially in our market, the buyer is typically already indicated, or the seller's already indicated what compensation that the buyer's agent will be paid. The buyer normally is not the one paying the agent. Of course, they do bring the funding to the table when they make the purchase, so they are bringing the money to the table, but it's the seller who's already negotiated with a listing agent on what they're going to pay in compensation to a buyer's agent. So it's really free representation. So it seems it'd seem a little bit silly not to take them up on the offer. It's almost like going to court without an attorney, and you could spend the next 5 years in prison for something. Especially if you're innocent, you really should hire an attorney, because it's not something you're used to the process. And even so, I'm sure you've heard all the different movies you've probably seen in your life. You've heard many a times that a person who represents themselves has a dummy for a client. So I think that rings true in real estate as well. Step 2, why you hire an agent. Hopefully you can translate that in your mind into what agent to hire, who's going to help you and represent you the best, whoever that agent is. And if you like the video, hit like below. If you want to see more from us, hit subscribe. Any comments you have, please put them in the comments below, and we'll try to respond to you. And we're hoping having a good week. Look out for our next video sometime this weekend or next week. Thanks.